What's going on, collectors? Welcome into Ross Loves Cards. Today, I want to talk a little bit about this YouTube community. I just recently hit the mark of 100 subscribers. Now, I know that's not a big channel and I didn't reach that number fast, but each subscriber that I have gotten, I just want to thank you for subscribing to the channel. I want to thank you all for who's ever watched a however any length of time. For all the people that's taken the time to hit a like or comment on it, I sure appreciate that. To be honest, I don't look at the likes so much. I do look at the comments. I like to interact with people. I feel like I've made a deeper connection with people by them comments. And recently, I think it was a couple videos ago, I left my email address. And had several people email me, and I'm so glad they did. I've gotten exchanged phone numbers and texted, and some have called me, and interacted back and forth. Altogether, over the past week, I've probably had just over 6 hours of conversations with different people. Accumulative together. I've had 6 hours of 6 hours worth of conversations, and I tell you what, I've thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. Just as I've enjoyed every minute that I've been on YouTube, from all the channels that I watch and subscribe to and follow. I wouldn't watch and spend the time looking at them if I didn't enjoy it. I hope you all are doing the same thing. Hope you all are enjoying YouTube. I'm one of them deals, I kind of like to know how much YouTube I watch in a week or a month. And then again, I kind of assume not knowing. It's kind of like, counting calories on vacation. You're kind of curious, but then again, you'd probably just assume not know. But, so I couldn't tell you how many hours, but every hour I've spent enjoying on YouTube, whether producing, commenting, watching. It's been great. And from the thumbnail, I said in there something like how the YouTube community is like the 53 Braves. And I also showed this card in the thumbnail. This is the 1953 Topps Worn Spawn. It's in a SGC2. You can see this card's pretty well centered. It's got pretty nicely evenly rounded corners, but they're not bad. They're not dented up, Well, you can look at things and find things in it, but I tell you what, I just love this card. I love sorry about that shadow there. I was trying to work on getting the glare out, and I've put a shadow in. There we go. I love the color of this card. I love how this card looks. It's one of my favorite cards. It's high on the list. This is a 53 Braves card of Worn Spawn. But notice it says Boston. A point of interest, in 53, the Braves played in Milwaukee, as I'm sure many of you already knew that. But the cards already have Boston on it. I seen that it was announced that the Boston Braves would move to Milwaukee March 14th of 1953. The owner gave everybody about a month's notice. We're going to be leaving Boston, going to Milwaukee. That's not a very long time to give people time to get their lives moved across there, from Boston to there. I was reading in this book, it's what spurred this idea, Worn Spawn biography by Lou Friedman. And so far, I'm only about halfway through it, but I am loving this book. It talks about Worn Spawn. There's things I knew about Worn Spawn, but I'm learning so much more from reading this biography. Most of us knew about, him being a war hero, was in the Battle of the Bulge, received a Purple Heart. But there's other people that go into more detail and are more in depth about that, knowledge of that. But I'm a fan of Worn Spawn, and reading this book's even making me more of a fan. But I do want to share with you all well, first, I'll share with you a bookmark Here's a bookmark my son made for me. You can tell it was made after the 53 Topps card. He just turned 7, so go easy on him on the critiques of that. But no, I sure do love it. When I get a new book, I like to try to see if I can get him to make me a bookmark. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he's use that last one I made you. So I don't force him to, but I sure do like when I go to read a book, seeing a bookmark from him. But just want to talk a little bit about this transition from the 52 to 53. In 1952, the Braves' record was not great. Okay, it was pretty bad. It was 64-89. But what was worse than that was their average attendance. Their average attendance was under 3,700. Less than 3,700 people. That stadium I read would seat up to 40,000 or around 40,000. So it was 10% full. Let's face it, they could have played in that ball field during COVID. People could have kept that 6-foot roll around them and not even been crowded, just being 10%. I don't know if I didn't check the math on that, but seriously, 10% full, people would be pretty sparse. You might fill up one small section. Maybe kind of try to make it look better. I don't know. But that's just awful. 3,700 people on average. There were some bigger days and some slow days. I think their last day they had 8,000, so no telling what the smallest crowd that they had. But they averaged 3,700. In 53, when they was coming to Milwaukee, Milwaukee was pumped up about it. They was ready for them to come. They had a Major League Baseball team. I'd really think for most Milwaukeeites, Milwaukeeers, most citizens of Milwaukee, we'll call them. Probably should have thought that out through before I started sounding stuff out of my head. But most citizens of Milwaukee probably had no idea that they wanted a professional baseball team there as much as when they finally got one. They met the team at the train station. Yet everybody there cheering, some people wanting people's autographs. They had a parade of sorts, had convertibles and took them through a route, and people was lined up on the route. They took them there to the stadium. There they had beer set up at their locker, cases of beer. They just kind of rolled out the red carpet for the Braves when they came in to Milwaukee. I did look. Game 1 of not game 1, the first home game in Milwaukee. The fans, there were 36,011. 36,011. You can say, well, Ross, that's opening day for that park and the team. Of course there's a lot of people. Average attendance for the 53 season was 23,119. So just some quick math, they had 19,000 more people in Milwaukee on average than they did at Boston. You can say, well, they had a better season then. Well, maybe, there's no maybe about it. They did have a better season that year. But maybe if the Boston crowd would have showed up and cheered them on, maybe they would have too. But, Boston did have another team there. Pretty good team and a pretty good stadium. Some of you may have heard of them, but maybe even been there. It's on my list to go to Fenway. But anyways, besides that, I read in this book, this one sentence is what made me think of this video. The baseball fans were so supportive, it seemed had been wandering in the desert for 40 years like Moses, just waiting for the big league ball team to come to town. I'm not going to say that the Braves are like the promised land. I'm not going to say that heresy, but, the excitement, I think a lot of people, at Milwaukee, they didn't know what they was missing until they found out they was going to be having them. They didn't know what it was like to get ready for opening day until they actually had a team of their own. And boy, I tell you what, they got the fever. You know what? YouTube was kind of like that for me. I didn't realize how much I would like YouTube until I started watching it. Until I started watching the videos, seeing the community in the comments, you know. You could feel people's sincere caring amongst one another. You know, people that would actually comment back when you leave comments. You know, that's one thing I really appreciate, you know, people that take the time to actually write a comment back. Sometimes I'm sure I don't know what to say commenting back on things. So if I don't make sense, it's not because I'm not trying or I don't want to. I'm just may not be that sharp sometimes, but I truly do appreciate every comment I get. But I didn't know how much I would love YouTube and the YouTube community until I was in it or around it. So I would encourage all of you to watch channels. Watch channels, comment, like. If you don't have a channel, try it by starting a channel, you know. You can even use a fake name if you want to. Don't have to put your face on there. Just, you know, just show cards if you want. I bet you'll find some support. If you do decide to start a channel, let me know. I would like to subscribe and follow it and see your videos. That's what I think is great about this community. Yes, you know, there's some people that, you know, say, well, certain people may not be as friendly to others, depending on what section of group the cards that you're in. I haven't witnessed that in the vintage card community. Of course, that's strictly kind of what I'm in, is the vintage card community. Now, I do look into, well, I do like, you call them retro years. I do like those channels. I like some modern cards sprinkled in. Some of that stuff, I don't know and understand a whole lot of it, but I kind of like to collect all of it. But just this community, what people have said to me, it's like you actually have friends. You know, I've got multiple people in my phone. If I had a question, I feel like I could reach out to them, whether it be a call or a text. And they may not be able to talk right then, but, you know, they'd call me back. And I sure appreciate that. And it's not because I've got a bunch of subscribers. Like I said, you know, I'm pretty proud to have 100 subscribers, and I appreciate each one of them. But I just appreciate the community that we have in this. So I'd like to encourage you all to get out there, comment, like, subscribe, make videos, be nice to one another, and enjoy this community that we have. Just be grateful like Milwaukee was in 1953. You know, let's have a parade for the YouTube community. Thank you all for watching.